Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. It is game week, guys. It's finally here. We made it 5 days away from kickoff. So tell us where you're checking in from. Tell us what you're drinking. Tell us who your favorite number 5 is. We got to back it up, though, because I saw this comment here from Donald Britt. Then we'll get back to 5 here in a second. He says, we missed day 6, but, man, there are a lot of good 6s, guys. Quentin Jammer, Quan Cosby, Quandre Diggs, Case McCoy as well was there. He also says Quinn seems left out somehow. But, man, what a bunch of good 6s in that first group for sure. And then we're going to jump on over here to number 5. And it was hard to narrow it down today. I'm not going to lie, but we're going to start here.
Oh, it's tough.
Y'all know who that is.
Bijan, baby, right? Or is that Bijan or is that Deshaun Jameson with
That's
the
Bijan.
Bijan.
Look at those ugly ass.
Hey, y'all realize that there were several kick returns in that season where the announcers were, that's
yes.
John Robinson, when it was really Deshaun Jameson returning the kicks for the Longhorns.
Then our next one, Air made quite a few clutch catches last year. I don't think anybody can argue that with Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, there's one that's against Kansas State, but, man, the two that I'll remember most, I think, came against Alabama. Obviously, he was a difference maker in that game with that clutch fourth-quarter touchdown, deep ball from Quinn Ewers. And then also the play against TCU. To this day, Longhorns may not have been in the college football playoff if they hadn't really connected on that 3rd and 12, was it, Jerry? That went down the left sideline.
By the way, when we talk about body control, we think about body control, leaving your foot, contorting your body, making a 50-50 catch. Look at A.D. Mitchell, fully extended body control right there. That's a different type of body control. I mean, you can't be more fully extended in stride than A.D. Mitchell right there.
Hey, Jerry, one of the best stories about him, though, came at that pro day. You and I were sitting there at the Longhorn pro day, and they were working out. Jordan Whittington, Xavier Worthy was doing some routes with Quinn. So was JT Sanders, etc. Quinn Ewers throws a deep ball, and A.D. Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell, looks like he's going kind of fast, but not full bore. And it's a deep ball. And Adonai Mitchell thinks he's overthrown, and you hear him literally throughout the entire bubble say, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And you see him hit another gear and then make a fingertip grab going to the ground.
Yeah.
I was like, that's somebody that had a little something else in the drawer waiting to be pulled out and put on display that day. I was like, he's just cut a little differently. He could be running 4.4. And then all of a sudden it's 4.3. And that's impressive. But maybe the best portal pickup, 1-year guy from the Longhorns. Obviously, Quinn's going to be a multi-year guy. But at this point, I would say that he's probably that guy.
I want to say this. If Trey Moore has the same impact A.D. Mitchell did, Texas will probably be a playoff team unless they have a rash of injuries.
Yeah, he's a tremendous athlete. To your point, the athleticism when the ball's in the air is freaky.
Our next number 5, guys, a little bit of a throwback here.
Oh, man.
I love it. James Brown, baby.
Look at those Reebok jerseys. Woo! By the way, Beaumont Westbrook, man, Bobby, back when the Golden Triangle, when he came out of there, when the Golden Triangle was popping in all sports, but football, I mean, Leland McElroy, James Brown. I mean, you just go through the list, all the guys at PA Lincoln, PA Jefferson. I mean, James Brown came out of the Golden Triangle when football was unbelievable in that area. And basketball's always been, but football was unbelievable when James Brown came out. That was a huge recruitment, by the way, for Texas that probably doesn't get enough credit.
I was working for the University of Houston at the time. I just graduated from Texas, was at U of H, and we had James Brown in a camp. And John Jenkins, the head coach at the University of Houston, said, no, doesn't have the arm strength. Just letting you know, he very much could have Could have went somewhere else, but a lot of people did not go on him. John Malkovich took him and Major Applewhite, both who did not have all of the arm strength, but had a lot of a hell ton amount of moxie.
Yeah.
So just remember that football quarterbacking can be played with a number of different ways, and I think moxie is one of the most underrated of all of them.
It is.
And then for our last two guys, we're going to go a little bit more current here. First, we'll start with Malik Muhammad.
Okay.
There we go. Manny's always got the gloves on. He's a glove guy.
Yeah.
Right, Jerry?
Yeah, he is. He is. And obviously Dallas South Oak Cliff, shout out to everybody in Dallas South Oak Cliff. They really restored the pride of that football program. Manny Muhammad and his family was a big part of that there at Dallas South Oak Cliff. And I think Manny Muhammad obviously is going to have a huge sophomore season and will elevate himself into a 3-and-done player this year.
And then last but not least, I know y'all are both very high on this number 5 wide receiver, Ryan Wingo.
Well, yeah.
Jerry, are you just subdued today because you baked in the Galveston sun on Saturday watching?
I mean, look. I think this is going to be interesting with Ryan Wingo to see where he is first 4 games of the year and last 4 games of the year. I think he's going to make such a dramatic jump the last half of the season, really last 4 games of the season, that he'll start to become more of a household name of college football last 4 games of the season, hopefully for Texas leading into the playoffs.
Billy Pittman, Davey Foggett mentioning Billy Pittman, key catch in that national championship game to keep a drive going, getting Texas in scoring position. He's out of Cameron, good stuff there, Blake. I love you going through those picks and having a lot of fun with them, talking about the Longhorn numbers of old. I'm sure there are others as well. So we'll get going on that. Hey, Jerry, I mentioned that Jonah Williams commitment over the weekend. Since we've been on Coffee and Football, that occurred. The young man out of Galveston Ball picks the Longhorns. Also, Nick Brooks, big offensive lineman out of Grayson, Georgia, by way of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, chose Texas over Georgia and USC. Huge stuff, in my opinion, Jerry, for the Longhorns over the weekend, going from 16 commitments to 18.
No doubt, going to, and jumping into the top 10 of the class rankings, up to 7 or 8, depending on where you look in the industry. And then, look, obviously, big day coming on August 30th, Friday. We'll be starting Coffee and Football early that day. Jamie French scheduled to announce his decision August 30th at 8:30, 8:25, 8:30 East Coast time. So it'll be a little earlier for us. And there you see it. Jonah Williams committed to Texas. Nick Brooks committed to Texas. 2 big pickups for the Longhorns on Friday and Saturday. Obviously, Jonah Williams, I think, is one of the more popular commitments with Texas fans in a while. And I say that because, one, the reactions from the live stream, right? For those that haven't got a chance to tune into that, go watch that. We had Caleb Chester on. We had Donnie Baggs, former A&M linebacker, Clear Springs linebacker who trains Jonah Williams. We had both of Jonah's brothers on to talk about Jonah after he committed. Galveston Ball football coach and baseball coach all joined us live during that live stream. But I think Jonah Williams, because the recruitment, he's a top 15 ranked player in the country, right? He's out of the Houston area, Galveston Ball High. But he was a guy that looked like he wasn't going to Texas 2 months ago. Those are the recruitments that really hit. A highly ranked guy, looks like he wasn't going to Texas. And because of our industry, where we're at from a marketing standpoint in the industry, everybody made their picks for him to go to about every college to try to generate marketing for their companies. And that creates even more hype around the recruitment, especially when he goes to one of the schools that was never predicted by anybody. I mean, Jonah Williams was predicted to Oklahoma, to A&M, to Oregon, to LSU. He ends up going to Texas. So it created a bunch of hype with the recruitment. It did its job from company marketing standpoints. And then what happened was he goes to Texas. And Texas fans for a long time said, this one's not happening. Tremendous player, not happening. And then there's the baseball angle, because, of course, Jim Schlossnagle had a part in this recruitment, and he ditched A&M hours after the college World Series to come to Texas, and now one of the best football prospects in the country, who's also one of the top baseball prospects in the country, commits to the Longhorns there. So that's one of those recruitments that is extremely popular, the way it all kind of played out. Huge recruiting win for Texas, period. No matter, we're talking about the timeline and how everything played out, huge recruiting win for the Longhorns.
I would say that that's an understatement. And the reason why, Jerry, is all of what you said is true. Plus, he's a great player.
Yeah. Great kid.
And the wins, the direct wins of the recruitment were over A&M, who thought they were a leader at one time, even if they weren't. LSU, who's been a thorn in Texas's side this recruiting cycle. And then Oregon, who's really tried to play that, come over the top idea with Texas players, Texas recruits. And so it wasn't just sweet from a marketing perspective, all that stuff. It was sweet down to the core, and even more importantly, down to the fact that Texas is adding an elite player. That's really, I talk about this all the time. Don't worry about the ones you don't get. Worry about the ones you do. That's something that Mac Brown said that I totally agreed with. If at the very most, if you don't get a player, you're going to see them 4 times in 4 years, at the very most. So be excited about the ones you do get, and make sure the ones that you get are worthwhile. And you watch these highlights, Jerry, and I just got to be honest that there's not 5 guys in the country that can do what he does, not at his size, period. And Texas after more of them. I love Michael Terry too, out of Alamo Heights, another bonus size, big athlete that can really run. Texas has a couple of them in this class already with Nick Townsend, Jerry.
We talked about that last night, Rod Babers, CJ, and myself on the live stream. Texas, and I call them the jumbo athletes, your 200-plus pound guys in this class. And nothing against your wide receivers that aren't that, or your running backs, but your jumbo athlete types. I mean, Jonah Williams was 215 at the end of last year. He's down to 205. He wants to play safety, and if you said you can't play safety, he wants to play wide out. He didn't. Linebacker's not where he wants to go. And I think he's gonna keep his body there, it looks like. But Nick Townsend's one of the best athletes pound for pound in the country. Lance Jackson, pound for pound, one of the better athletes that you'll see at 6'6", 270. Elijah Barnes, Bo Barnes at 239. He broke 11 flat and 100 meters at 230 last spring. So Texas with these jumbo 200-plus pound athletes, they got some really good players in this class. And you mentioned Michael Terry. They're in on, obviously, is a big one as well. So that is Texas is recruiting SEC size with SEC speed.
Right, Bobby, before we move on, and we do have a ton to talk about, but before we get to all that, can you tell folks out there about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management?
I absolutely will. John, like many of you and us, we're excited about game week, baby. It's here. We would like to thank our sponsor, John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's a proud Texas Ex's life member whose wife and 6 siblings are all UT grads as well. It's this rich family tradition that explains why John branded his firm Longhorn Wealth and has dedicated his firm to providing total wealth management for Texas alums, employees, family, and friends. John has more than 30 years in the business. As we approach the home opener for our Longhorns this Saturday, please remember to get your home's financial affairs in order by reaching out to John for a free 90-minute consultation to explore how Longhorn Wealth can analyze and evaluate your financial landscape. Simply call John and his team 972-707-4900 or go online at www.longhornwealth.net to schedule your free consultation. John will be in Austin for the UT Colorado State game on Saturday and hopes to see many of you there. I think he's going to stop by the co-op on Friday, where we'll be talking a little Longhorn football as well. Please join us if you would. Again, longhornwealth.net, 972-707-4900.
Hey, Blake, I want to address a little bit on Jonah Williams. Todd Lacey asked, because there's some questions coming about baseball, football.
Go ahead.
So Todd Lace said, "Is Adam Dunn the last football, baseball player at Texas?" Adam never played baseball at Texas. He was drafted by the Reds in the sandwich round in between first and second round. And he went to Texas to play football. He had turned down the contract initially. Then after Chris Sims signed with Texas, Cincinnati came back with a bigger offer, and he smartly took that. He smartly took that contract and went on to hit 400 home runs in MLB. Adam Dunn, still always a big Texas fan, man. I mean, Adam Dunn. I'll never forget. I talked to his dad, Skip Dunn, during his recruitment because it was right when the coaching change was happening, and some people thought Adam may go to Notre Dame. And I'll never forget, Skip Dunn said, "My son's going to Texas come hell or high water." That's how big of a Longhorn fan Adam Dunn is.
I will say this. People don't realize this about Adam Dunn. As big as he is, he led Greater Houston as a high school recruit, as a high school player. He led Greater Houston not in home runs. You know what he led them in?
Stolen bases.
Stolen bases.
He could really move, man.
Yeah, big guy that could move. Hey, Jerry, you look at all of that and talk about guys that are sitting there, and we're talking about everything going on this week. One of the things I want to mention is the Texas One Fund, whose hat I'm sporting right now, is set up to make an announcement later today. That I think will be very beneficial for folks who want to donate to the Texas One Fund and want something for that in return. I'll just put it out there that way. So be aware of that. If you deal with and have Longhorn season tickets, for example, be aware of that. I think that announcement goes up around 10:30 this morning. I want to put that out there for everybody. I had a little bit of note on that over the weekend. I am trying not to say too much because I don't want to eclipse their announcement, but I do believe it's really, really good news coming for the Longhorns.
And Alfio Randall Vesey, one of the members of Mac Brown's #1 recruiting class. Thank you very much. We need to get Alfio on the show. Alfio, DM me. Cedric Benson was the last MLB player, last guy to play college football at Texas, and also play in the minor leagues.
Cedric didn't play at Texas; he played minor league baseball. I think the last guy, Scotty Pugh, was good one. He was from Abilene Cooper. I think the actual last one may have been Johnny Walker, back in the early '90s, that actually played baseball and football, actually got on the field in both. That's now somebody, Keith Moreland would know different. Craig Way would probably know different, maybe if it's out there. But please, if anybody knows in the chat and wants to remind us, let us know.
Well, guys, the Texas back on the practice field this morning. Media availability to follow. What are we expecting to hear today, Bobby?
I don't know that we're going to hear anything other than look. Are we going to get a depth chart today?
We didn't until 2 hours before the game last year.
I know. That's the real thing that could come about. It's not. Sark hasn't always done it that way, right, Jerry? He put it out almost a week and a half before 2 years ago. I think we're going to get Sark, and we're supposed to get a handful of players availabilities and breakout sessions afterwards. That'll happen around 11:30 to 12 o'clock. We're also going to hear from Bob Bauman, the new swimming coach at the University of Texas. He'll have his first press conference post-Olympics. I think that starts at 11 today as well. We may have some notes and news from that one as well. But all in all, Jerry, I don't know that we expect much. What are you hearing? And this is people are asking me about all these positions. I've got to tell you, the one that I keep hearing that is still up for grabs today, as of today, is punter.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we have an idea of what they're getting in these receivers, right? At least we know their strengths and probably some of their weaknesses at a level. We haven't seen either punter really perform, not in front of a big crowd. So that's the one I'm waiting on. Ian Ratliff and Michael Kern are, at least as of over the weekend, they were locked in a big time battle. And Kern has the bigger leg. We've talked about this. He has the bigger leg, and Ratliff does not have as big a leg, but is more consistent. Now, is Kern improving enough and have a big enough leg that Jeff Banks and Steve Sarkisian are going to roll the dice a little bit? We'll see. That's the one spot I know everybody wants to hear about what's going on at corner and the star position, as well as all the wide receivers and what Texas might do there, Jerry. But the one it's unknown is punter. Right
it's a big one, because you could have a 12-yard punt in the fourth quarter against Michigan on the road, and they get a short field and you lose the game. I mean, it all matters. It all matters. And so I think Michael Kern is getting every opportunity to win the job because his upside's so high. I think Michael Kern, because St. Thomas Aquinas does not have early high school graduation, that kept Michael Kern from getting to Austin in the spring. So he's getting more of a late start. And even at that position, there's an adjustment to college football because everything in your peripheral moves a lot faster. So you have to get used to your timing, punting the football in college versus high school. And that's a big difference with the level of athletes that are coming at you at the college level and how quickly they want you to get the ball off and do it with accuracy, direction, everything, turning them over, a knockout kick in your coverage, everything that goes into it. It's actually a pretty big adjustment for these guys as well.
Hey guys, before we move on here, I want to say happy birthday today, Jedi Master Bevo's 50th birthday. He says we're going to start the celebration with some coffee and football. So thank you for tuning in on your birthday. And then we also have another birthday here from Jeff. Happy birthday to you, Jeff. So hope you both have a outstanding birthday today. Okay, guys. Well, first off, Jerry, I'm surprised we haven't heard an FSU comment from you. We're 22 minutes into the show and not a single smart aleck comment. So I'm going to give you a chance to do that.
Look, I'd left all my DJ ukulele on the field before the season, and the field was what it always has been. I mean, the guy, look, NIL's been really good to him, but that's great for the kids in the game. But look, FSU has a major problem. One, they physically lost in the trenches against Georgia Tech. Now, Brent Key, really good offensive line coach. The running back at Georgia Tech's really good. Haynes King is a tough dude, man. Anybody that watched him knows Haynes King's tough. And by the way, if you're the son of John King, you have no choice but to be tough, else you'll be sleeping outside on the back porch. So Haynes King's a tough kid. But FSU is going to have a major drop off at quarterback this year. The quarterback run game's gone. Much more pressure on your protection, much more pressure on your run game. Your RPO game is not going to be the same. Downfield accuracy is not the same. And for all this 6'5", big body, can throw it through the wall, he's just not a playmaker. And that doesn't mean you don't have a couple of throws in there, but it's just not the playmaker Jordan Travis was. So when you look at that drop-off, that's a pretty big drop-off. And then you don't have the 50-50 ball in that team this year, which turned into 80-20s with Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. They just can't throw it to a spot this year, and their guy comes down with it. And defensively, there are some key guys. Fisk, Jared Verse, obviously, was one of the best pass rushers in the country. Patrick Payton's a really good pass rusher. They're going to be okay on defense, but offensively, if they got to go win games in the fourth quarter, who's going to go make the plays and win the games for them? It's up in the air. And by the way, they get a little time off. They play Boston College Monday, which is the only game on Monday. And Castanelos, the quarterback from South Georgia, from the Peach State, that's the quarterback down at Boston College. He's a pretty difficult guy in college football. So they got their hands full again.
And I don't know. Luck of the Irish. That's what happened with Georgia Tech. But it didn't look lucky to me, Jerry. It looked like they ran the hell over them.
Yeah,
I mean, it really did. I thought Georgia Tech, their coach might be due for a better job. He's moving that school in the right direction.
Bobby. He's the first guy that's getting some key recruits in the greater Atlanta area right now. He's the first guy I've seen actually do this consistently. And if that continues, You can, I've had multiple college coaches say Georgia Tech is one of the sleeper jobs, not to win a national championship, is one of the sleeper jobs. If you could ever get the right guy in the right kind of mindset in there to keep 3, 4, 5 of those key guys from exiting the state and going to Georgia Tech that aren't going to go to Georgia. He's the first guy that I've seen really starting to do that. So Georgia Tech could become that 8-9 win program if that can continue on and they continue to get the quarterback play to the level they need it. They're winning a few key recruits. By the way, the running back's damn good.
Hey, Jerry, I want to go back. You mentioned Greater Georgia. We did not talk about this enough. You talked quite a bit about Jonah Williams. Another guy that committed on Friday was a young man out of Grayson, Georgia now, Nick Brooks. Go back and tell people that missed the news over the weekend, because he didn't do it until mid-afternoon, late afternoon on Friday. Some people that missed this from Friday, give them a snippet, I guess, of what and who Nick Brooks is and why he committed to the University of Texas.
Yeah, Nick Brooks is originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, went to JFK High, went to private school in Alpharetta sophomore year, back to Cedar Rapids, now at Grayson in Lawrenceville area of Georgia, northeast of Atlanta. Those are moves that have to do with family work. So not just a guy jumping high schools, right? 6'7", 365, playing left tackle for Grayson High, one of the several really talented programs in the greater Atlanta area. But he'd been at Texas. He was a Georgia lean in the spring. He's a one-time Iowa commitment. He backed out of that. He wasn't going to go to Iowa. They didn't even get an official visit. Came down to Texas, Georgia, USC. He was a Georgia lean in the spring. And then it kind of went the way of Brandon Baker's recruitment in that he came down for the spring game. He was very impressed with Texas at the spring game, what he saw. Scheduled the official visit. Texas actually ended up getting the last official visit. Georgia brought him in on one of their – they do it different. Georgia brought him in on May 31st, June 2nd, one of their big early weekends. Texas brought him in on the 14th, 16th, one of their 2 big late weekends. And then he had USC in between. But I think, look, I think Texas, Kyle Flood did a really good job in this recruitment. And Nick Brooks really liked the team. He liked everything he saw in Austin. His mom and siblings made the official visit in June. By the way, apparently he's the karaoke champion of all time for recruitment visits. If you listen to people that were there, so Nick Brooks, he's going to be tough to beat in karaoke in the future. But a guy that, look, I think, Bobby, I watched him a little bit last Thursday against Thompson. This is kind of my take on him. I think his upside's really high. And because he's been to 4 high schools in 4 years, which in 2 of those are the same, but that means his last 3 years, he's had 3 different head coaches, 3 different schemes, 3 different programs he's trying to fit into when he moves. So it takes him a while to get comfortable, play his way into a little bit better shape every year. So take a look at, if you go back, people, take a look at his huddle highlight tape early in the season, then look at it second half of the season. Because that's a lot to move for a high school kid, especially an offensive lineman, and you're trying to fit in with new head coach, new offensive line coach, new scheme, new system, new calls. So he has that adjustment period. And then he misses some off season with the moves. There's a lack of football consistency that he's about to get now in Austin. I think that makes his upside really high. That was a big national recruiting win over Georgia and USC on a kid from Iowa. When's the last time Texas signed anybody from Cedar Rapids, Iowa? He may be the first. By the way, Jonah Williams, the last time Texas won a recruitment at Galveston ball and football was Casey Hampton. Okay.
Oh, yep, there we go. Well, let's talk a little more recruiting, but in baseball.
Big decommitment.
Yeah, big decommitment. Jaworski Lane, that's a name I haven't heard in forever, but his son, Jaworski Lane Jr., has decommitted from Texas A&M, and he says he's exploring his options as far as other schools and recruitments go. And, of course,
well, I brought this up because the chat was all about it, and we talked about it last night. Look, Jaworski Lane Jr.'s son is at Fort Worth Wyatt, I believe, high school. He's considered one of the top 3 or 4 baseball prospects in the country in his class, right, Blake? A catcher. He had, 61 stolen bases. I know the district he plays in may not be great, but 61 stolen bases last year, put up monster numbers there. But Jaworski Lane, obviously, Jaworski Lane and Jermichael Finley are stepbrothers. and Jaworski Lane Jr. decommits from Texas A&M. Will he go to Texas? Boy, this chat would be on fire if that happened. We'll see. Bobby, any thoughts on that, Bobby? Because Jaworski Lane had as good a feet as you'll ever see for a 250-pound running back. He had great.
That's your problem right there, Jerry. He didn't have the best feet for a 250-pound running back. He had the best feet for a 280-pound running back.
Right.
He was that way, but hey, he was absolutely a talented athlete coming out of Lufkin. His son, though, this is interesting to me. Blake, you're our baseball guy in this little group of us three. What does this mean in your, thought process? Does this mean he's going to focus on the pros, or does this mean he might be looking at the Longhorns? I mean, what's going on there?
Oh, I mean, he'll definitely still continue to look at schools. Excuse me. But I talked to somebody yesterday who says they don't expect him on a college campus, period. He will be a high draft pick. And a lot of schools are even wondering, do we even put forth the effort, because he's a guaranteed high pick.
He's a catcher at first. He's a likely first rounder, right? That's what people think. Yeah,
definitely. And so I don't be surprised if Texas doesn't really go all in on him. Not because they don't want him. I mean, that's definitely not the case. It's just that, the MLB is going to be calling very quickly.
Yeah. There's an important question. Important question for Bobby in the chat from Ski Brett. Any thoughts on David Stone?
I told y'all. I told you guys. I went and saw IMG in person last year, and I came away with that thinking Jaden Jackson was the better player and the better prospect. He just cared more about football. He stayed lower to the ground. He wasn't lazy. He didn't have the perfect frame, but he had a great defensive line frame. He had a 315, 320-pound interior defensive line prospect, and he's starting for the Sooners. Jaden Jackson is, according to Brent Venables. And so all those OU fans out there that got all pissed off at me last year when I said I didn't think David Stone was a 5-star, take it.
It doesn't mean
I want to say this. Jaden Jackson's a really good football player. This does not mean it's the end of the road for David Stone. So I'm not saying that. It's just some guys play football better. And Jaden Jackson was a football player. And I'm not sure I think David Stone likes the idea of football.
The crazy thing about that is, so the depth chart comes out, and Jaden Jackson, obviously Dominic Williams is a starter at nose tackle. Jaden Jackson is starter, and David Stone was 13. And look, I think David Stone's going to be a quality player. I think just these guys take a little longer to mature, I think, on some levels, mental maturity. But the crazy thing is, David Stone was big in helping recruit Jaden Jackson to Oklahoma. Now he got beat out by him early on. It's kind of weird how that works out. By the way, the biggest thing for me on the Oklahoma depth chart was Mike Hawkins is QB2, not Casey Thompson. Jackson Arnold better play very well this year.
Yeah. The other one that happened is Brennan Thompson's listed as an as a starter with Rodney Anderson. Rodney Anderson.
I think that's maybe some nicked up injury stuff. That one won't hold.
Yeah, but still, Brennan Thompson, former Longhorn, went up and transferred. One of the very few that ever transfers between those two teams. Went up and is trying to make his mark now in the Sooners. Brennan Thompson will stretch you deep. The question is, can your quarterback get it that deep? Because he can outrun just about anything, dude. I mean, 10-2 is 10-2. So, to your point, though, Nick Anderson expected to be an NFL player sooner rather than later. Likely will end up being the starter at that position long term. But Brennan Thompson's going to have a role for the Sooners this year.
And wide receiver
may come back to bite the Longhorns.
Wide receiver is the best, I think, maybe the best position for Oklahoma. I know a lot of people are saying secondary. They've improved in the secondary. In one of those linebacker positions, they got some really good depth as well. But wide receiver may be their deepest, best position headed into the season at OU.
I love their linebackers. I actually think their linebackers are better than their secondary at this point. They're building something on defense a little bit, Jerry.
Yeah.
To your point. I think they're building something.
I mean, if Venables can't do that, then he's not going to make it, right?
Right.
Okay, well, before we move on, we got a lot of super chats, guys. We got a lot. I need you to talk about Manscaped.
Well, look, it's game week. You know how you know it's game week? Because I got the 5.0 and the handyman for this read, man. You got to break it all out. You got to break it all out. It's the beard and balls bundle. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one and done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6, introducing the Beard and Balls Fun Bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code ONTEXAS, all caps, at manscaped.com for the premium grooming experience. Trust Manscaped. And I'm just here to tell you guys, I'm just here to tell you, man, this thing's waterproof now. I've tested it. This isn't just a read. I test this thing in the shower. I didn't throw it in the ocean. This is absolutely waterproof. You don't have to worry about it. Showerproof, waterproof, all you need right here. Lawnmower 5.0 ensures you're always looking your best below the waist, while the Beard Hedger takes care of everything above.
I don't know, guys. I feel like Jerry's going to take it to Galveston with him and go in the water or something, in the waves. The visual pictures in my mind, I don't like.
Hey, by the way, the Colorado Rams know what's coming in DKR Saturday.
Colorado State, yes. Hope so. Hey, what is the weather supposed to be like this Saturday, guys? Have you looked that up yet? I think like mid-90s. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, but 35-40% chance of rain in the afternoon. But who knows, right?
Oh, what would that be like? A sticky 100 degree with 95% humidity. Oh,
yeah.
Ooh.
I'm trying to get it to pull up here to give you the full weather report. If I can, there we go. Here we go, guys.
What do you got on Saturday there?
That's Saturday, high of 93, low of 75. As you can see, the temperature going to be in the low 90s, and then we'll go over to precipitation. Low 20s, but it goes up to 47% about 5 o'clock.
Well, that may actually be welcome. after everybody's been there. Look, I want to say this about our Friday and Saturday. We're going to be at the co-op on Friday afternoon. Please join us, if you will, from 3 to 4. Then we're going to go over to the Victory Lap and hang out there. That is literally about 200 yards from the co-op. No show from the Victory Lap. We're just going to hang out. Please come by, have a beer. I think Yingling and Flight are going to be working with us on that. So please come do that. And then Saturday, Jerry and I will be in 2 different places. We'll be at the Flat Creek Wine Garden. Flat Creek Estate Winery is owned by Longhorns. And they are creating a wine garden experience at DKR this year, across from the Longhorn Hall of Fame, between the Longhorn Hall of Fame, really, and Bass Concert Hall, if you're familiar with that area. And then we'll also be at a tailgate up on LBJ Lawn that we do, On Texas Football does in conjunction with the guys over at Surly Horns. Please feel free to come out. And then if you're down in Houston on Thursday, please join us down in Houston at Little Woodrow's in Webster. Jerry and I are going to be doing a Thursday night live stream down there from 6 to 7, and then hanging out after that with folks. So if you're in Houston and want to come along, please do so. Faust Distributing as well as Yingling will be sponsoring that. There's a door prize, by the way, at that event for worth $350. It's a specially made fire pit from a Yingling branded fire pit that's pretty darn cool, and they'll have a giveaway there for that. But join us Thursday night around 6 o'clock down at Little Woodrow's in Webster.
Hey, question from Dennis Henry here. Asked if I'm going to be in Florida Friday. He's talking about Jamie French's announcement. No, opening week of the season. As Bobby just kind of went through that. We have a bunch of things we have to do here in Houston and Austin coming up for the Texas opener. But I'll probably be out there soon. Scott Knudsen has an interesting question here. Can we talk about the Colorado State decision to change their uniforms? Apparently, they're arriving in all white, which would be a smart move, but they have changed this up to combat the sun and the heat. I think that Blake, they actually put out, Colorado State actually put out a football, actually put out a video on this. But your thoughts on that? I mean, whatever.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, look, I wouldn't wear anything but white if I had a choice. Well, I'll have something like this on that's predominantly white with a Longhorn logo on it for sure on Saturday. It's going to be hot. And one thing is, Jay Norvell knows what it's like in DKR in the middle of August.
Yeah.
He's the former wide receivers coach, offensive coordinator under Charlie Strong, and he's the head coach now at Colorado State. He knows what it's like. I mean, he's not dumb. And so he's going to try to give his team the best chance possible. The 33.5-point underdogs right now. So we'll see where that comes out. But I have no problem with Colorado State changing up uniforms. I actually think their uniforms look pretty good in that all white. So,
hey, we have our first declaration of the season. Brandon Huey says if OU loses to Temple, he's streaking down Bevo Boulevard Saturday. So that's our first. One that's not happening, but two, it would be hilarious if a Temple actually. I think what's Temple, a 40-point underdog in that game?
Stan Drayton's still the head coach there, by the way. The former Longhorn running back coach. So we'll see. I look, if that happens, we are going to see a new quarterback at OU before Texas.
Yeah,
comes calling in the Cotton Bowl. Is that one of the subplots to you for this college football season for Texas, Jerry? Like you mentioned this, and I loved how you talked about it the other day. 9 new quarterbacks Texas faces, or 8 new quarterbacks Texas faces this year on its schedule as a whole. And then you could be talking about somebody that might get replaced as well. What do you make of that for the Longhorns? I mean, they don't really know who they're playing yet in some respects, right? Because the best these guys have been are backups or within different offensive schemes, like in the case of Blake Chapin, the former Baylor quarterback who's now at Mississippi State. What do you think of that? You think that's going to have a big impact on the Longhorn season?
Well, I think it's interesting. Hey, Blake, if you could bring up the Texas schedule while we go through this.
Yep.
So Michigan, you got to prepare for 2 quarterbacks, Alex Orji and Jack Tuttle, right? So you got to prepare for 2 there. First-year starter. Colorado State brings back their returning starter, obviously, Fowler Colsey, who played at Aledo High. UTSA, Frank Harris not there for the first time. ULM Monroe has General Booty, who's never taken a college snap, but obviously very from a family of quarterbacks there. Mississippi State, you mentioned that, Blake Shapen. Jackson Arnold, first-year starter. Vanderbilt, the transfer from New Mexico State, who actually is an upgrade for them. Arkansas, Taylor Green, the Boise State transfer, good player. Kentucky, obviously they're hyping up the Georgia transfer, but then they also took Gavin Wimsatt from Rutgers, so beware of the hype. And then Texas A&M at the end of the year, we'll see there. But a lot of new quarterbacks, not guys that are inexperienced in college football, but a lot of new quarterbacks. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I think Michigan, Texas will see both of those guys in 2 weeks up at Michigan. By the way, Michigan plays a really good Fresno State team to begin the season, the Fresno State team that won 9 games. So for the Texas fans that watch that, you'll actually see them play a competent opponent. And, if Michigan goes out and rolls them 54-0, that means Michigan's really good again, by the way. But they're actually playing against a competent opponent. But there's some major changes at quarterback, obviously, with these teams. But Oklahoma having Tennessee and at Auburn, and then the off week before Texas, that's my question is, where's Jackson Arnold going to be at? And I'm not here saying he's going to be terrible. What I've been saying about this is I think Michael Hawkins is really good. And Michael Hawkins will grab that job if given an opportunity if Jackson Arnold doesn't play well. Now, that's Oklahoma's such an interesting position because I think Brent Venables kind of backed himself into a corner in that deal because you let Dylan Gabriel walk. He goes to Oregon, and he's the Heisman favorite, right? The guy you let walk to keep Jackson Arnold from transferring out. So your guy better play really well. Else the fan base will be like, whoa now. I mean, this guy, Dylan Gabriel, goes to Oregon, and he's dinking and dunking it to be a Heisman favorite up there. But Jackson Arnold, he's going to need to play well for Brent Venables, I think. But if he doesn't, telling you, Michael Hawkins brings the element of elusiveness, escapability with arm strength. And for those that haven't really followed Michael Hawkins, he's trained with Kevin Murray for about 5 years. Kevin knows what he's doing. Kid's going to be ready to roll if he gets an opportunity.
All right. We got a lot of super chats that we need to get to. So we're going to dive right into those. And we're going to start here with this one from Jack. Jack, thank you as always. He says, let's all pray for the Swindle family and that Brenna is found safe and healthy.
Yeah. Y'all want me to speak about this real quick? I got some emails on it and text messages of it yesterday. Thank you for reminding us, Jack. Greg Swindell and his wife have a daughter that has not been seen or heard from since Thursday of last week. The last update I had was on Sunday afternoon, where her car had been located in Colorado, as well as her and either her boyfriend's or fiance's phones have been located as well, but they were turned off. And so as I haven't checked this morning, there may be an update from Greg and his wife. But yes, we are absolutely doing that. I sent a text out. Somebody asked me to send a text around to people as well yesterday. They were definitely hoping and praying for a resolution to that would be positive, but tough. Greg is you talk about, Jerry, you were talking about Adam Dunn being a Longhorn through and through. Greg Swindell was a Longhorn from jump as well. So hope the best for him and his family, thinking about him.
Our next super chat comes from MP Houston. Thank you, MP. It says, Jerry, how much of a real factor was Schloss in landing Jonah Williams? And should we credit Trev Alberts with a secondary assist for letting Schloss get away?
Well, there's a story there for the next AD hires. Don't fire your baseball coaches, one of their second-hand men that second you get in there. Second-hand man. So, look, I think it helped, yes, for sure. I thought a couple of interesting things. And one thing we didn't really push a lot because I didn't want people to just say, oh, done deal, is Nick, his older brother, lives in Austin now when he's not playing baseball. He lives in the Austin area. So he's got a family member there. And Nick's got a young child. Him and his significant other live in Austin. So, look, there's a family member there in Austin now. And what Jonah said that I thought was interesting is, if I'm gonna live in Texas, my legacy needs to be in Texas. And what better place to do that than the University of Texas? I thought that kind of hit on all the points that we have been talking about within this recruitment. Nobody from this state's ever left college, left Texas, left the state for college. I mean, Nick he committed to Texas, signed with A&M. He was going to MLB, though. It didn't matter where he committed or signed. He was going to MLB. Younger brother Seth, or middle brother Seth, is at Galveston College playing college baseball, and I'm guessing he'll stay in the state for 4-year baseball. Father played at U of H after Galveston ball. He was on some really good teams. So there's a family history, a precedent type of thing here where they stay in state. And what Jonah said that I thought was really major, and that is, if I'm going to live in Texas, I want to build my legacy in Texas, and why not the University of Texas? But I do think Schloss making that move certainly helped Texas in regarding that recruitment.
And then our next super chat comes from Any Given Sunday or Saturday, excuse me, while we're on the subject of Jonah. And he asked, Jerry, what type of impact, if any, does Jonah's commitment have on athlete Michael Terry?
Yeah, so look, this isn't a knock on Jonah at all or any other kid, but look, we're in a different day and age in recruiting. And this is one of the things I've been saying. It's because of NIL and where we're at in the college football kind of recruiting world right now, there isn't really I'm following here because of here. I mean, think about where we're at with Arch Manning, and the thought was every wide receiver will come to Texas. Now, all these recruitments are separate now. Texas winning football games impacts recruiting more than anybody committing to Texas at this point. Winning football games, having players drafted, does your family want you close to home? They want you in this state. All those things matter much more than one guy commits here, so I'm going to follow and go there. The recruiting's changed a lot in the last few years in that regard, just from talking to kids, parents, college coaches, just observing it. Bobby, with our years of experience in that. So I don't think, look, I think it helps your momentum a little bit, but nobody's committing to a school, because here's the reality. If a Texas NIL deal and a NIL deal somewhere else is 4 times more, don't matter who's at that school. I'm just saying, we're living in different times now.
And we're going to follow that super chat up with this one here from Jay Gibby. Thank you, Jay Gibby. Lifelong Horns fan attending my first game ever at DKR this Saturday. Don't tell my wife and kids, but I'm pretty sure it'll be the best day of my life. I love the On Texas Football Crew, and I listen to y'all every single day. Hook 'em, boys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay Gibby. We appreciate you, and congratulations on making your first game, dude. That's a great thing, and happy to see you. Please come by and say hello to Jerry, myself. I think Rod's going to be out there and about. So will CJ Vogel. Come out and say hi. Don't be shy. I would say this to everybody out there. We love meeting you guys, and I like the community we've built, but I also love seeing people who, no matter what community they're part of, have a passion for the University of Texas and Texas football. That's what gets me charged up each and every morning to do On Texas Football as well. Thanks, Jay Gibby, and good luck and have fun, man.
Be a good time for sure. And Jay Gibby, by the way, they just put out the schedule, I think, yesterday of the full day of events. There was so many things on there, so you can definitely make a full day of it for sure. Longhorn Frenzy 1. Thank you, Longhorn Frenzy. Jonah Williams broke Aggie. Hilarious to see all the Aggies drop off the live stream after he announced for Texas.
Yeah. We go back to this, and I said this after Jerry gave his piece on Jonah Williams. It was one of those that hurt and positioned Texas because he was uniquely wanted by every school that Texas has been competing against heavily over the last 6 months. He was wanted by LSU. He's wanted by OU. At one time, he had crystal balls going to OU. At A&M, to your point, definitely high on their list. Yes, exactly. Jerry's doing the eye roll. But also Oregon has been a little bit of a pain in Texas's side, right? So it was it felt good in that regard, right? It felt therapeutic to win that one. Not to mention what I think is most important, and that's just exactly how good he is and how good of a prospect he is. Because you can celebrate recruiting wins all you want, but unless they do something on the field of play, it's hollow. I don't think that young man is. He's made out and cut a little differently to make a difference wherever he's at. He's a district MVP in a pretty talented district as a sophomore. I mean, it's defensive MVP as a junior, district MVP in baseball as a junior. Man, he's just cut different, dude. Jerry, you and I have seen those guys. Yeah, we know what they look like.
Yeah, we're getting some Michael Terry comments in here. Look, I continue to think Texas is a big leader there. That happened.
Oh,
sorry, and I'm not going to have to change my bomb on that to be right. Right.
It's amazing how many if he sets off bombs everywhere. I like Steve Wiltfong a lot, by the way, but I think that his if you change your picks very often, it doesn't have the effectiveness as if you just do it once. Jerry Cherry Bomb, there you go.
All right, guys. Our next super chat comes from Jay Lee. Thank you, Jay. Once we get French and we're in the top 7, what are all of these people who say we have a recruiting problem or we keep getting NIL'd going to talk about?
Oh, that Texas can't repeat its success on the field this year. There's always going to be naysayers about anything and everything Texas does. That's part of being a Texas Longhorn. Is that there's going to be guys chirping, whether it's Aggies or Sooners or whoever, could be even Baylor or Houston or, TCU fans. They'll always chirp, oh, well, you didn't do this. Now, at the end of the day, Texas is the flagship institution in the great state of Texas. Period. End of story. And your team is not. So you get used to the chirping, because the have-nots are always going to want a piece of the haves. That's my take.
One of the things I kind of look at in recruiting that's different now for Texas is, one, you're in the SEC. But if Texas brings in 51, 52 official visitors at the end of the day, their vast majority of those are national recruitments now. You're only going to win a percentage of those. I mean, there's real competition. If you're going into Florida to recruit, you're going into Georgia and Alabama and all these places to recruit. I mean, just think, let's just say you go into Georgia and you recruit a really good defensive lineman. You're going against Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, who's right down the road from kids in Atlanta. So is Clemson, right? Your Florida schools, FSU's pretty close to some of those. You saw that with Kevin Wynn, right? You're going into national recruitments if you go into the Southeast. And if you go out into California, look, those are national recruitments too. If you go out there and you're recruiting a really, really good football player, Madden Faramo, what is that? That's Notre Dame. That's USC. I mean, Texas is locked in majority of, even in the state of Texas, we just talked about Jonah Williams, right? National recruitments. If you walk away with 22, 23 out of 50, you're doing really well, because the reality is you're not going to get all these guys. Georgia doesn't get all these guys. Georgia may sign 6 out of the top 10 in their state this year. That'd be the most they've signed under Kirby, I believe. Maybe except one year, maybe early on. But in recent years, it's been like 3 or 4 out of the top 10. Because again, those recruitments are national recruitments. And Tennessee, I didn't even mention Tennessee in there. And they're a factor because they're close to home for Atlanta kids. So that's just, it's just part of it. And the key to me, how many shots on goal are you getting on these national recruitments? And Texas is getting enough of the shots on goal in national recruitments to have the ability to go back to back with top 5 level classes, whether you're ranked 4, 5, 6, 7, doesn't matter to me. A top 5, because that could come down to signing one team signing one more guy than you on some level. So do you have enough shots on goal? That's the key. And Texas is. Now, here's the thing. Even if Texas gets Jamie French on Friday and the recruiting class is ranked 6, you still have positional needs you have to fill before December 4th. And by the way, December 4th changes. That early signing period, it's earlier. So some of those flips, those things have to start happening a little earlier, with the signing day moving up 2 weeks.
And we have one other super chat. This one here from Bixby Horn. Thank you, Bixby. And he says, good morning, gentlemen. Can't wait to leave Oklahoma this Thursday. Headed to Austin to watch our Horns. Watch you guys all day, every day. Hook 'em.
Welcome to Austin, baby. We're coming too. It should be fun. I'm ready to get going. This has been a long time coming. We're 5 days away. We talked about it at the start of the show, and where we're at in this, waiting on a depth chart that Steve Sarkisian may or may not offer today at 11:30. That happens. We will see if he actually announces one. Sark and players will be available at 11:30 today. There also will be an announcement, just going back over some news that we've gathered. There will also be an announcement from Texas One Fund that should have an impact on annual giving, in my opinion, for NIL Collective at the University of Texas. That'll happen around 10:30, I believe, today as well. And then other than that, we are counting down the days for Jamie French and his announcement. And he announces on Friday. I think that's going to be at 7:30 in the morning. Jerry, Blake, we're
early coffee and football.
Yeah, so we're going to go live early for coffee and football on Friday morning. So mark your calendars if you like coffee and football. We're going to go a little earlier because he announces at 8:30 Eastern. So Jerry, me, and Blake are going to be up early and going for that one as well. So let's have some fun this week, guys. Should be a good one.
A big week of college football, by the way. There's some huge games. Blake is going to bring up the schedule here.
Yep.
Look, obviously Texas. We're on TexasFootball.com, by the way. I have our game week thread going. If you're not a member, jump on in there, get in the conversation. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that this week. It's a huge week in college football, though. This is one of the better week one schedules we've had in a while, in my opinion. Blake, if you pull that up.
Yeah, I sure will here. And we're going to start with Thursday, guys. Obviously, the big ones on Thursday, North Dakota State and Colorado, and North Carolina at Minnesota are probably the two bigger games on Thursday.
Some people on College Game Day over the weekend, by the way, it was really cool to see Nick Saban on College Game Day in Dublin, Ireland, have said if North Carolina wins at Minnesota, they're predicting North Carolina starts the season 7-0. Well, we'll see on that, but Mac, boy, that would get interesting if North Carolina started the season 7-0. But Friday, obviously, a big one for Texas fans. That's a Temple at Oklahoma. Alan Tom Herman plays at Michigan State.
Yeah, and TCU and Stanford are going to be your big ones on Friday.
TCU and Stanford.
Boy, that's late. Look at that start time, 9:30.
Yeah, well,
if Stanford would just run out of the tunnel with Georgia uniforms on, TCU might not even play the game. Those flashbacks may be too much to overcome.
Hey, they didn't show up last time, that's for sure.
No. Hey, guys, before we get to Saturday's games, first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everybody out there one last time about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management.
Yeah, absolutely. John's been a real friend to On Texas Football, and we appreciate him very much. As a proud UT alum, John has served for 15 years as a Dallas, Texas Ex's board member, and he is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County, Texas Ex's chapter. John's a certified financial planner with more than 30 years of experience and expertise in helping Longhorn families maximize their wealth, minimize their taxes, and secure their legacy. So to discuss strategies for how you can truly secure your overall financial future, schedule your own free 90-minute consultation with John by simply calling Longhorn Wealth 972-707-4900 or going online at www.longhornwealth.com. John will be in Austin for the Longhorns home opener on Saturday and hopes to see you there. Hook 'em from John and his group at Longhorn Wealth Management.
Thank you, Bobby. And we're going to jump back over to the Saturday games now. Quite the slate. We're going to start with the early games, 11 a.m. up to 2:30. I'll put those up on the screen. And Miami and Florida instantly sticks out at the 2:30 slot. I think that's going to obviously be one of your bigger ones. And then Clemson and Georgia will kick off at 11 a.m.
That's a big one, guys. And I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but Dabo better be highly competitive in that game. If he loses that game by 17, 20 points, then his fan base is going to turn on him for the first time. I really believe that. And I talked to somebody really tied in with Georgia last night, and they think Kirby will go for the jugular for recruiting purposes if he can in that game. So Clemson Dabo needs a good showing in that game, and that'll be interesting to see. Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt. Virginia Tech's become a trendy pick by some to win the ACC because they have the most starters back in college football. But obviously Miami at Florida, the Miami hype train is rolling, baby, rolling right now, Bobby. And when that hype train gets rolling, you better win at Florida versus the guy that's on the hot seat. Because if not, what do you find yourself on? The warm seat. That's a big game for both of those coaches.
It really is. It's put up or shut up time for Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier. I mean, frankly, the one that I think is kind of a sneaky good game, and it's Penn State at West Virginia.
That's what I was going to say.
They're a trendy pick too, West Virginia in the Big 12.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people thinking West Virginia because of their quarterback returning, some other pieces. Neil Brown's a good coach. He's kind of made it through that tough slog of getting his own players in there and creating his own kind of identity. Had a comeback season last year. I thought that was really good. And Penn State, James Franklin, no offense to James Franklin. He hasn't gotten over the top at Penn State, in part because Ohio State and Michigan have kind of kicked him down and kept him down. So I'll be interested to see if Penn State finally looks like a team that's ready to overcome him. I'm not saying that by beating West Virginia, they'll necessarily prove that, because I don't know just how good West Virginia is, but I do think Penn State and West Virginia is a good matchup, especially since the game's in Morgantown, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I don't know what the total number is for Illinois State and Iowa, but 13.5 sound about right.
Hey, Kirk Ferentz won't be coaching because he illegally recruited the quarterback that averaged 17 points a game last year.
Oh, is he really suspended for that game?
I think so. That's what I heard. That he was
Wow.
getting suspended or had already been. Let me double check that before anybody takes that to the bank, though. My apologies.
Let's look at the later games on Saturday.
Upset alerts always Old Dominion and South Carolina, Virginia Tech. So that's always an upset alert game when they play. Then you have the big one. I mean, Notre Dame at A&M, and I'm not talking about UCLA at Hawaii. Notre Dame at A&M is it's a big game, guys, because look, Notre Dame is kind of at that point where if they win that game, you're almost at like show me the for sure loss on that schedule, especially if Riley Leonard looks good in the green and gold throwing the ball down the field at Notre Dame, which he didn't get a chance to do at Duke, which I do think he'll have a better chance to do at Notre Dame. But they lost their left tackle to ACL first week of camp. So Notre Dame, Joe Alt obviously went in the draft, his replacement ACL. Texas A&M, not many opportunities a coach gets to begin his tenure at a school with a blue blood coming to town ranked in the top 10. That's a huge opportunity for Mike Elko and A&M. I think Notre Dame is the better football team, but they're already going to be on Saturday. One, A&M's a little healthier, but again, a lot of new faces for Texas A&M. What's that offensive line going to look like against Notre Dame's front seven? I think that's some big questions there. But that's a huge game. Obviously, that's the marquee national game. Kirk Herbstreit and everybody will be at that game, calling that game College Game Day there. But huge opportunity for A&M. But Notre Dame, if they win that game, Notre Dame has maybe the best schedule you'll ever see to get in the playoff.
And then real quickly, because we got a super chat we have to get to before we get out of here. Sunday, the big one's obviously LSU and USC.
Yeah.
On Monday, Florida State has a chance to lose again.
Look, that's a huge game for Lincoln Riley. He better not get bully balled in that game.
Oh, LSU versus USC?
Yeah, he better not get bully balled in that game by LSU. It better not look like a physical an outmatched team in that game, because what's left of that fan base will just go surfing the rest of the year.
LSU defense has to make a turn this year.
Yeah.
Then now they got a new defense coordinator, promising one from Missouri. But LSU's defense was, it leaked like a sieve last year.
And by the way, Davey Fockett mentioned the Monday game, Boston College and FSU. That BC quarterbacks, he's a lot to handle in the QB run game. He's a really good player in college football. That should be a good spot for the FSU coaching staff, though. I mean, that should be a really good bounce back, good team to coach this week leading up to that game.
Before we get out of here, let's hit these supers quickly. Coach 420, nothing was attached to your super chat. You got a second to put it in, but thank you for the super chat, and we can always circle back to it. Mike with the super chat. Thank you, Mike. What are the strengths of Texas running back recruits this cycle? Will Stewart become a 4-star as the season plays out?
If he rushes for 2,500 yards again, I mean, what do you want the kid to do? Rush for 3,000, and then you might give him a 4th star.
I mean, him and James Simon, it depends on what you look at. They're ranked 4-star in a couple of places, right? So where are they at? I have those guys both as top 375 level prospects in America, which is a 4-star prospect. Ricky Stewart, really good player, got that fast, underrated, underappreciated speed as a slasher when he sticks his foot in the ground and goes vertically, catches the ball, really tough kid. plays against a really good schedule at Chapel Hill. The two things that you hear from coaches in East Texas when I was on the road there in this early spring, and that was Kilgore, and that's Carthage, and all the people that you played against Ricky Stewart, or they watched him on tape, watch him at a game in person. One, he's faster than you think on tape. Then you see him in person, he's faster than you think. And two, he's a physical football player. Both of those things bode very well as his frame builds out at the next level. And then obviously James Simon, really good scheme fit at Texas in the run game. And he's going to be a 215, 220-pound back. Obviously, father was a really good running back at La Tech and has coached college football for over a decade. That was another kind of feather in the cap for Tashard Choice that James Simon's father said, Texas is a spot to go develop as a running back under Tashard Choice. That's a college coach telling your son that.
Then our last one for today, fellas, comes from Jimmy, and he says, from Jerry's neck of the woods, Dobie High School, San Antonio blend this morning. I'm going 58-13 this Saturday and an 11-1 season. Your thoughts?
Bobby, that's your high school. You take that one.
I graduated from Dobie High, 1987, baby. I went on our season prediction show. We did me, you, Rod, and CJ. We published on Saturday, I think. I went 10-2 with losses that are the ones that are expected, to be honest with you, Michigan and Georgia. And I have Texas finishing strong. I believe that Texas has a chance to get back to the college playoffs, even if they go 9-3. I really believe that, as long as they finish strong. That is the piece of this equation that I think is going to be important with the season. It's not just do they beat Michigan out of the gate or close to out of the gate. It's going to be how do they perform late in the year. A 9-3 surging team with guys like Ryan Wingo coming on, or Colin Simmons, or any number of players that might be out there that I'm thinking about that could add in to what Texas can be. A full year of Anthony Hill at inside linebacker, for example, a full year of Trey Moore getting accustomed to it. All of that stuff. I'm more concerned, not necessarily 11-1 versus 10-2, as to how Texas finishes, because I think that will predicate whether or not Texas gets into the playoffs. I'll just put that out there.
I like Texas to cover the 33.5 unless it becomes some torrential downpour for an hour and a half at the game. I just think Colorado State, they can wear white unis or no unis. They're going to be really tired in the second half of that game.
Brandon Huey's going to be wearing those.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't care what color uniforms you wear, your offensive tackles better have real body quickness on Saturday, because Texas is coming with numbers at the edge position. And I do think Colorado State's got really good safeties. A lot of experience back in their secondary, but they lost 3 key guys on the D-line. They lost a linebacker that's in the NFL now. How is their front going to be against Texas is the question. Their safeties are really actually good players at Colorado State. One guy will probably have a career in football off of that team, but what are they going to look like up front against Texas?
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. So we want to thank them, along with Manscaped, for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in, for the great questions, the super chats, and everything in between. 5 days. It is game week, and there's going to be content all week long right here on the OTF YouTube channel, along with on TexasFootball.com. So if you haven't gone over there, check it out. Join in on the discussion. You can even become a member using promo code OTFOG. You get it for less than $40 a year. For less than $40, you cannot beat that. So, and please hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime that we post content or go live. Bobby, I know, like I said just a second ago, there is a lot going on this week. Give folks a taste of what it is today.
Yeah, well, Steve Sarkisian is talking to media at 11:30, along with several players. We've got the winning drive coming up with Rod Babers, CJ Vogel, and Bob Shipley, the former coach. Stevie Lee joins them every Monday. Jerry and I will be doing Talking Ball tonight to take your questions, talk a little bit of stuff going on. It'll be more Q&A oriented tonight. And then also we'll probably do another video a little bit later today. We got some other news that may be coming out. So a lot of stuff going on. Visit us at ontexasfootball.com, because if you're looking to keep up and join a great community right now, I really do think we're building something special over at ontexasfootball.com because of people like you guys that love the Longhorns first and foremost. So we appreciate it.
We will be back same time, same place tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll